Welcome back to Odyssey News. I am Mike Odyssey, and today is Odyssey Friday. And Odyssey Friday, we take one topic and we discuss it down below. I like Odyssey Fridays because it gives me a chance to just talk to you guys and just have a discussion, right? We don't have arguments here. We have discussions and we give our opinions, right? And let me tell you, I respect every single opinion down below in the description, even if it disagrees with my own. You know why? Because hey, we are all different. We have our point of views. And every point of view is valid, right? That's why I love Odyssey Fridays. And today's discussion is about, do we need a next-gen console now? And I'm not saying this because of what happened yesterday when it comes to the Pokemon game and the issues with people were having with the frame rate, graphics, and all that stuff. I'm just saying, is it time? Is it really time? Because the lack of a more powerful hardware in our current landscape, is that hurting the Nintendo Switch and the potential of the games being sold, right? Let's go ahead and talk about this. Before I jump into this video and this channel is partnered and sponsored by Ewing Racing. This chair right there. So yeah, thank you Ewing Racing for sponsoring this video and for partnering with our channel. Down below in the description, you'll find a link and a code for 20% off these amazing chairs that I'm sitting on. I'm telling you, this is the best and most comfortable chair I have ever sat on. And yeah, down below, click that link, use that code and get 20% off everything at the store on top of whatever discount they already have on. So yeah, go ahead and check that link down below. And thank you again, Ewing Racing, for sponsoring this video. So in today's video, I want to answer this question. Are we ready for the next gen console, and do we need the next gen console as soon as possible? As you know, yesterday we had the reviews come out for the Pokemon Violet and Scarlet games, and the Metacritic score was around 78, which is pretty low when it comes to a game just like Pokemon. I mean, I think it's Arceus got 82 on the Metacritic score, which is a good score, right? And this is due to apparently some graphical issues that happened during the game. Some people were encountering low frame rates. Other people were encountering graphical issues and pop-ups and things not loading correctly during the game. This was not my personal experience, but it was the experience of other players, and that's very well understandable because everybody can have a different experience. You know, games, it's hardware, it's software, things can go wrong at certain points. And this has caused the discussion, would this game run better if it were on a more powerful hardware? And of course, the answer is yes, it would run better on a more powerful hardware. But the question is it the Nintendo Switch fault that this happened? And the answer is no, it's not the Nintendo Switch fault, because not to make a direct comparison because these are two different types of games, but I'm making an engine comparison because if you didn't know, these games are built on engines. These engines are custom made by the developer company. Now, this engine was built on an engine built by Game Freak, right? So Game Freak make this engine, they developed this game, they made the open world concept and everything, and they did what they did. Now, we have on the other side of the coin, Breath of the Wild, The Legend of Zelda, with a game that started everything. The game that started the open world concept thing and made it popular, right? Because before Elden Ring, before God of War, before the Horizon Forbidden West, there was Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild was the breakthrough that everybody needed when it comes to open world concepts. And guess what? That game is more graphically demanding than the Pokemon Legends Arceus, right? That game is more graphically impressive than Pokemon Legends Arceus. So it's not a matter of whether the Switch can handle it. It's a matter of whether the developer can handle the Switch. Can the developer build a game that runs well on the Switch? Because we already saw Breath of the Wild do it in a great, fantastical way. And, you know, so if you put two side by side, you can see that Breath of the Wild runs really great. It looks impressive. It looks more amazing. The graphics are great, beautiful. The loading times are good. You can see far off without having anything to pop in or out. And then I have not experienced it, but people are experiencing these pop-ups when it comes to, when I mean pop-ups, I mean items. Let's say Pokemon, when you walk, you can't see them in the distance, and all of a sudden they just pop up on the screen because it took a little bit for the hardware to kind of process the software. And then, you know, produce the image. So these are the issues that people are encountering, and that's what led to these reviews. Even though the Switch is powerful enough to produce and to run games such as this one, and a lot of the blame goes on top of the developer, this still hurts the Switch because it creates the narrative out there that the Switch is unable to handle these games. This is an untruthful narrative because the Switch can handle these games. We're talking about developers who cannot develop for the Switch. It hurts the life of the Switch. It hurts your experience. There's a lot of people out there who would buy a game based on how people review them and how well they perform. For example, if a developer company releases a great game, but they don't know how to develop the game well for that console, and the game has problems running on that console because not the console's fault, but the developer's fault, then that person who's interested in that game will not buy that game. So it's hurting the franchise, and it's also hurting the console. Now, there's the other question, whether if we do have the next-gen console, where will these issues still persist? And I can tell you that it will, because again, it's not up to the console itself. It's not the issue with the console, whether the console can handle the game. The issue is with the developing company that is actually making a game for that specific console. You know, it's the developer company's responsibility to develop for the console. So believe it or not, I still believe that if we did have the next gen console, these issues will still persist, because if the issue doesn't lie within the console itself, it lies with the developing company, then they will still make the same mistakes. They will still release a game that has any glitches or has any issues, processing the frame rates or graphical issues, because graphical issues exist everywhere. But the problem is that the issues still exist, and some developers still lack the ability to develop for a specific console, even if the game they're developing is exclusive for that console. Now the question lies, was this game developed with the next gen console in mind, right? Because if this game was developed with the next gen console in mind, that means that they were able to produce a version of the game that would run well on Switch. And there is where you can explain these graphical issues and these frame rate issues, because maybe they did not really work a version that will run on the Switch well, and we might be getting basically the ported version on the next gen console, the next gen Switch, or whatever Nintendo decides to release. But in my opinion, in order for it to get the talk out, in order to get this resolved when it comes to what's out there, when it comes to the reputation, because none of us want the Switch to end up in a negative way. We want to end high. Nintendo needs to release another console while the Switch is still good, so that it continues the momentum. Is it good for Nintendo to release a next gen console right now? I believe yes. Do we need it? No. I believe developers who are developing specifically for the Switch need to do a better job developing for that specific console. And I don't think it's hard enough to do that, because first party Nintendo games have already proved that you can develop for a specific console without having any issues. And I consider Pokemon a first party game because, Pokemon Company is partly owned by Nintendo. Let me know what you guys think. I think this is good for the discussion, and we'll continue the conversation down below. The question we have here is, do we need a next-gen console? Will the next-gen console stop all the fuss and all the talk, right? Or do we put the responsibility completely on the developer company, which is developing a game that's specific for the Nintendo Switch, right? Like if you go to a shoe store You're not gonna buy a shoe that's 2 sizes smaller than your foot or 2 sizes bigger. You're gonna buy a shoe that is made exactly for your foot, and that's the analogy that I chose to provide. So let me know down below in the comments, guys. Before I go, let me leave you with 2 more things. Number 1, never ever give up, and number 2, journey on. Peace.
We're on a journey, looking back on the things that we've taken for granted, but feels like we're learning to be better without what's been holding us back now.